We continue our walk through the education system with a look at permanent exclusion. Permanent exclusion is one of those policies that is quite sad in many ways, because it means that, to a certain extent, in raw terms, that the system has given up on trying to educate a young person. And this can have lifelong repercussions if we're absolutely honest with ourselves, which is quite, it makes you wonder what the system is for. Is it right to suddenly just, well, it's not sudden, but to let go of this young person, to say to them, we can no longer deal with you, off you go? Because basically that is what we're saying. I'm not saying it's an easy decision, because, as I said, it's not sudden. It goes through a number of stages and it considers a lot of different factors. But at any of those factors, we have to wonder if we're suitably considering the challenges that are affecting that young person, and if we've honestly tried everything within our the realm of possibilities to correct that person and to get them to focus on their life and what the repercussions of their actions will be. Because let's go through them. Perhaps the main consequence of permanent exclusion, is that feeling of rejection. Because I have not met a student who is at risk of permanent exclusion that actually believes it's going to happen. But I have met many who are extremely sad when they realize it is going to happen. And the words often used are, Miss, they don't want me anymore. They don't want me here. Which suggests to me a feeling of, I don't know what to do. I'm sort of out at sea. I know I've done wrong, but I don't know how to put myself right, which I'm sure even as adults we've gone through many times. I had a smaller incident with my son when I asked him to apologize, and later on he said to me, I wanted to apologize, but the words wouldn't come out. And that's what led me to researching the behaviours of students who are at risk of permanent exclusion. Is it the case that they're so young, because remember my son's 8, that they don't understand themselves enough? Which I'm sure many of them do understand themselves enough, but is it the case that consequences of their actions are not clearly set out so that they can correct themselves before things go too far? The other consequences of permanent exclusion, we've already talked about the feeling of rejection, which reinforces their feeling of no voice, because some of them are not old enough to take responsibility or to understand taking responsibility. There's that demotivation feeling, like, if they don't want me, miss, then what am I supposed to do? It would take a lot of sitting down with them to talk to them on a consistent basis to try and set them correct. And this is not always a quick process. It takes time. It could take a whole school year, but it's going to take a different amount of time depending on the person that you're talking to. Perhaps the biggest problem is whether that permanent exclusion is just permanent, as in we no longer have responsibility for you, and not managed, which creates irretrievable gaps in education. Let's face it, when a child is permanently excluded, the gaps that are created can only be retrieved with really, really hard, focused work. And is that likely? When considering the process that they've gone through to get to that point of permanent exclusion, it's unlikely that they're now suddenly going to find that independent mindset that allows them to be successful. Or there's the other method in which it's managed and it's structured, and they go to a PRU unit, pupil referral unit, which has its problems with it, because then you're dealing with putting them in a group. Remember what I said about groups before? You're putting them in a group of other demotivated students, other students with problems which need to be resolved as well. It's unlikely that putting them in a pupil referral unit would be successful. It's just one of those places that serves a purpose, but that purpose is not education. So what else is there? There's online courses, but a lot of online courses are designed once and put online, and people sign up, and it is what it is. This is one of the reasons why I saw it as necessary, as absolutely necessary, to create a course which is constantly updated with the latest information, that is designed by examiners, that gives you a way of learning which resembles the classroom. So you do get a live teacher, you are expected to turn up, you are expected to complete the work, your parents are re-engaged into the process, so it looks like school as much as it possibly can. The only thing is you're not physically in a building, but your teacher is still expecting you, registers are still taken. That still sends a message out to the student that you are still valued. You still have something to contribute to this world, and we want to be part of helping you get there. It's a positive response. Sometimes permanent exclusion has to happen, but why not make it as positive an experience as possible? Helping the student to go on to be a success, helping the parents to have a successful child, helping them to realize that their child is not rejected, their child is merely being educated in another place. So what I'm saying today is we need to have a little think about the whole process and think about what we can do, right, and take action on that, what we can do to make permanent exclusion a positive experience, because it will still happen. In some places it happens more than others, but it still needs looking at. Maybe it's a case of having a conversation with your child's school today or the local authority, but please take some action. And tomorrow I will talk to you about school refusers.